Hello, my name is Juliana and I'm here to talk about Gate 32 or Gene Key 32 today. I'm a registered therapeutic counselor, I'm a seeker, I'm a quantum human design specialist, and I love putting together different ideas and different thoughts and how they relate to our human experience. So welcome. So Gate 32, we're going to start with human design and then we'll shift over to the gene key interpretation. So in the human design body graph, Gate 32 is in the spleen, so it's what's known as a fear gate, and it connects with Gate 54 that leads to the root. And this is in tribal circuitry. So this is all about keeping the tribe, your tight-knit community, safe and healthy. In traditional human design language, this gate is known as the gate of continuity, and in quantum language, it's known as the gate of endurance. And the idea of this is that the only thing that actually endures is change. The only thing that we can be certain of is change. This is all about the Gate 32. And it's really about calling us into trusting in divine timing and being able to prepare and laying the foundation while waiting for opportunities to arrive. So practicing patience in that time. And this gate is really in constant evaluation of what can be changed and what doesn't need to be changed. It's always watching for where does change need to occur. So in the gene key side of this, the shadow of gene key 32 is failure. And it's really rooted in this fear of failure. And this fear of failure is a very collective, old, animalistic feeling based on the survival of the species. And it's about the idea that each person had in our ancient communities, right, when we were hunters and gatherers, had a vital role to play in the survival of the tribe. And if one person failed at it, then the entire tribe could suffer or perish. And it's also rooted in this idea of being able to preserve the tribe by having children. And if you couldn't play your role, or if you failed at it, right, that you got harmed, that you were injured, something happened, you didn't live the role that you were meant to live, you were supposed to live, you might get kicked out of the community, you may be shunned, or the community might die off. So that fear of failure is rooted in this collective, ancient fear of survival of the species. And so what happens is nowadays, right, especially in the West, people don't live in such tight family structures anymore, right? People leave the family, they go exploring. We live in what we call now nuclear families, right? Parents and children, that's it. There's less involvement with grandparents and such. And because of this, because there's not the same amount of structure in place, right? If you think of big families living together, communities supporting one another, there's structure, there's stability, right? There's also the fear of failing at what your role is, but there's also, if something happens, there's other people to support me. There's other people around to help out, right? If I get sick, there's someone to take care of my kids. If I'm really tired and need to rest, there's someone to take care. There's other people to get food if needed. And so because we have less of this in our modern world and our Western world, that support structure is then projected out onto the amount of money that we have. And so the more money we have, this is the perspective, right? The safer we are. And this is the shadow of this. gene key. The more money we have, then the safer we are. And this is because in the world that we now live in, the definition of success is based on how much financial money you have. What's your number in your bank account? And the less money we have in the shadow perspective, the less support, which then can send through these feelings of, I'm not going to survive, right? If we think back to the ancient times, if someone couldn't do their job, it could result in failure of the species, death. So this shadow here, this shadow of Gene Key 32, is one of the reasons why money creates such a fear-based thinking in our world, and this like clinging and desiring for more. And the thing about money, and I've always had this, I mean, growing up, money never made sense to me. And I used to think that it was because there was something wrong with me. But as I get older and I learn more about our world and our financial system, the thing with money is that it's so manipulated these days that there is not even a true tangible thing to judge our failure or success on. It is literally a number. We are not gathering wares, we are not gathering gold, we are not gathering food to entail the success. It's just a number, and that number tells us how successful we are or not. And so this fear of lack of money, right, is related to failure and death. These are the two greatest fears. I may have said that before in some other of the splenic gates, but these death and failure are two of the greatest fears that are just palpable in our world, right? You see it in our media, you see it in our news, you see it in movies, you see it in books, you see it in what we talk about. Death and failure, you see it in marketing. Failure equals death. It's scary, right? This is why this shadow of failure is so visceral in the body. It feels so real, even if you're looking around you and there's abundance around you. You have everything you need. But because it's not just you as an individual or me as an individual, right? Remember, this is tribal circuitry, so it's actually being transmitted through our collective consciousness. So the thing about fear is that fear needs something to feed off of, right? It's the same with the shadow or the dark. There needs to be a level of hiding from it or energy of pushing against it in order for it to continue, in order for it to keep going. And what keeps fear going in our bodies now, when there's actually nothing to fear in the moment, right? There is a good type of fear. It's when there's something right in front of us that is about to harm us. That is healthy fear. This fear is perpetuated and fed by a trigger, which then stimulates our mind to create stories, which then create reactions and then create coping mechanisms. And we go into this spiral of fear. And it's also not about eradicating money. Money in itself is not bad. Money is an archetype, right? Money is just an archetype for structure, for safety. And money has been turned into something that we compete for, right? Like under this idea that not all human beings, just simply because we're alive, gets to feel safe and cared for. And this is really where the competition, right? Competing for something else, and this like hoarding or withholding really live. It's like we need to compete with one another and we need to withhold what we have, because that fear-based thought is that if others have more than you, then you'll go without and then your family will die or you will die, right? That's how I know that that language is quite shocking, right? But that's how, when you trace fear going through your body and it's not something that's right in front of us, those fear-based thoughts often just end up with, I'm going to die. So what happens is in this, it goes quite deep, right? Because what's happened is, I apologize for the sun. I'm enjoying it right now, so it might skew the camera a little bit. What happens in this shift away from these small families, these communities that support one another, is there's a cutting off, right? We're no longer connected, although we are, but we're not connected in this, in a tight-knit way, in a tangible way. But this disconnection also happens with something greater than us. There's this disconnection, this cutting off from spirit, from our higher selves, and also from the earth. We're cut off from all of this on the shadow side of this gene key, right? It's all about failure. And if we're disconnected from the earth, and if we're disconnected from our families or our community or spirit, there's going to be fear of failure, because there's fear that we're not going to survive. So what this shadow is really calling out in us is that it's asking us to begin to think of us all as connected. Me and you. Even if I've never met you and you don't know me except for this video that you're watching right now, we are connected. That we are connected to the earth that we walk on, that we are connected to our animals that we care for, that we are connected to the plants on our desk, that we are connected to other people on the other side of the planet. And we are connected as a whole, as an entire species of humanity, an entire consciousness that is actually designed to work together. And this is where this shadow continues to keep us separate. This shadow continues to keep us in this competitive, withholding, hoarding. I'm going to have that, you're not going to have anything. But the truth is that if our entire species work together, there would be no people without. Okay? And so what needs to happen in this is first the knowing that true failure is only when we cut ourselves off from the whole. Now, this can mean a number of different things. Sometimes there are reasons we cut ourselves off from our families, and there are very legitimate reasons for that, right? But at the central point of this is we cut ourselves off from something greater than ourselves. We cut ourselves off from the connection to the earth because we are of the earth. That is what true failure is when we actually are completely cut off and we think that we are this floating being going through space, bumbling along, and everything relies on only how I do something or you do something, and that we don't have anything or anyone else to lean into. And so what's being called for here is a developing of a healthy relationship between failure and success. A healthy relationship of understanding failure as in a stumbling block, as in a mistake, as in a where we veer off path for a little while, as opposed to failure being completely cut off from everything. And then success, right? We're being called to redefine what success means in our world. And so success meaning like What is it that you value? Maybe success doesn't mean that you have $3 million in the bank account or whatever your number is. Maybe it means that you get to sleep in every day and you get to go see your grandchildren, or you get to spend time writing or painting or walking through the woods without needing to be on all the time. So we're being asked to redefine failure and success. What we define to be failure are often just the points, again, of where we veer off path or we reach a stumbling block, and those stumbling blocks are often just opportunities for us to learn from, right? If we go back to what the human design definition of this is, it's like we're in constant evaluation of what can be changed and what doesn't need to be changed, what can be changed for the greater good for ourselves, but also for others. So as we begin, as I'll invite you to begin to start thinking, okay, what are my values? What would my definition of success be? Minus all of the, oh, that's not working. Minus all of the conditioning of what success should feel like. And what would you rather see failure as? So then we move into this gift of preservation. And the gift of preservation is about knowing what to keep alive, where to keep putting your energy, and what to change. And it's the ability to risk making change even in the face of that conditioned failure, of that fear of failure. Where does change need to happen even though it feels scary? And it's also the ability to reflect on the past, know what didn't work, know how to make the changes that are needed to support the evolution of self and other. And it really taps into this beautiful word that I love, discernment. Using discernment, what worked, what didn't, what do you want to change, what do you have the energy to change, and are you in a fear-based thought right now? This gift is also about being in the natural ebb and flow of nature and the seasons. You look all around us and Mother Earth is never constantly growing, right? She goes into the death and the rebirth cycles, the winter and the spring and the summer and the fall. This is the natural ebb. You see this in our tidal systems. You see this in our moon. There is always a natural ebb and flow. And that is what we also need to tap into. What is your natural ebb and flow in your day, in your month, in your year? Can you honor your ebb and flow? Can you honor that part of yourself? And then it's all about, right, when we ebb and we flow, when we move into winter and autumn, we're also letting go of what's no longer serving us and the community. Because remember, this is all about tribal energy. This is about everyone. This is about us being connected. So when we make a decision for ourselves, right, around preservation, about how you want to show up in the world, the work you're here to do in the world, how you want to show up in your relationship, it's not just about you or me. It's also about the people who are potentially going to be impacted by us, potentially people we don't even know. And so it's to know what is good, to know what is good for you, and to know what needs to be transformed for the benefit of yourself and your community and the collective consciousness. And it's about seeing that each and every single one of us, without question, has an important part to contribute on this planet, in your little communities and on the greater global scale. Every single person is here to be of value to the world. We are not meant to be here fighting and competing and hoarding and only sharing little bits. Everyone has an important role to play. And the thing is that what we're evolving from through right now is those important roles may not fit into mainstream. And that's where the fear also kicks in, right? As we're moving through this evolutionary journey right now, is that the role that might be your role to play, maybe your role to play is that person who just walks into a room and brings light. But in our current world, I mean, some people could monetize that, but it's harder to monetize, right? And so it's about starting to flip our perspective around what's valuable, what's successful. And while we all need money right now as a form of security, my sense is that we're evolving. Like, money is getting a whole makeover right now. Money is getting a makeover, which is why we're seeing everything that we're seeing happening on the planet right now, which is why a lot of people who are on the leading edge of change, light workers, light holders, are being pushed up against this, or being called into redefining value, into redefining what true success actually is. And as you do that, you're actually standing for this radical evolutionary process of humanity and the planet right now. You're actually standing in your powerful evolutionary shoes as you begin to redefine success, value, and failure. So, just as a final note, encouraging you to contemplate, what's your definition of success? What's your definition of failure? What do you want your definition of success to mean? And what do you want failure to be? Maybe failure is just a time that we course correct, that we evaluate, and we choose to weed out what isn't working, and we choose to focus on what is, or try something new. So I really hope that helped. I'm wishing you all the best. If you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe. It really lifts my heart a lot to be able to talk about these pieces with people and share my perspective. So thank you so much again for watching.